Hey guys, welcome to this video. Today we're gonna have a look at the benchmarking and security of Manjaro Linux. So the first thing we look at is the memory usage. Previously we did ArcoLinux and Garuda Linux, and we saw that Garuda Linux has a bit more memory usage than ArcoLinux, and Manjaro has a bit less than ArcoLinux. So it has 629 megabytes after a clean reboot. It wins in this part. So the second thing that we look at is the CPU usage after a clean reboot. ArcoLinux and Garuda Linux we did already before, so ArcoLinux was very low at 0.21. Garuda Linux was at 0.53, and Manjaro has an average of 1. So there was a bit more in the background running on Manjaro Linux. Most likely it's something like a check for software or kernel, although I did update everything before I started running the performance test. But you can see here that it's a bit more CPU usage after clean reboot. Then we looked at the boot time. So if I look at ArcoLinux and Garuda Linux, we saw that Garuda Linux had was a bit faster in booting, but Manjaro wins it from the three. So Manjaro is the fastest in boot time. Then we looked at the Hardening-Index. Well, ArcoLinux was 67, Garuda Linux is 63, and Manjaro is the same, so it's also 63. So Garuda and Manjaro are on par. Then we looked at the CPU speed, and it was in exchanges per second, as you remember previously. So ArcoLinux had 417,000, Garuda 407,000, and Manjaro has 476,000 extensions per second. So it has a very good flow through to the CPU. That's probably why it also feels pretty snappy. If you look at the memory speed in megabytes per second, ArcoLinux has 6,697, Garuda 6,655, and Manjaro has 6,933. So here again, Manjaro wins in memory speed. So it's optimized in this way. Then we go to the disk read speed. ArcoLinux was 22.7, Garuda 19.46, and Manjaro is a bit slower here. It's an 18.27. I was not expecting that because of CPU and the memory is very fast, but then the disk access is slower, so that's a bit weird. But I tested it multiple times, and this is an average of all the numbers, so yeah, it is slower. As the read speed is slower, you would expect that the write speed is also slower, and indeed it is slower, but not as much as on the read speed. It's almost comparable to Garuda Linux, but it is slower. Then we look at the Geekbench single core score, and ArcoLinux has a value of 1,102, Garuda 1,038, and Manjaro 1,085. Then the Geekbench Multi core score, and ArcoLinux had a value of 3107, Garuda 2494, and Manjaro is 2791. So you can see here that the operating system has some influence on the scores of your multi or single score. Then lastly, we did the browser test, of course, so see how fast it responds to your browsing. ArcoLinux had a value of 116, Garuda at 87, and Manjaro at 102. So we saw a couple of times that Manjaro wins in a couple of tests, and if you look at the overall scores, I still think that ArcoLinux is, if you look at the performances, the real life, so let's say when you use it, ArcoLinux is still a bit faster in use than Manjaro. At least it feels like it. I'm not saying that it is, but it feels like it. Manjaro is a very good operating system, I must say. Nothing wrong with it. All seems very good. So this is a much more secure operating system than Garuda Linux, and you can see and feel that in the way it handles itself. The next one that we'll be testing and installing will be Endeavour OS. So Endeavour will be the next one in this test, and let's see what the values are then. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you liked it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.